The frozen fist hit Maggie Chen's door at 9:47 p.m. like a judge's gavel. 20 men. Leather. Skulls. Hell's Angels. Through the frosted window, she counted them collapsing in her yard. Some weren't moving anymore. "Please," the voice cracked through wood and wind. "We're dying." Maggie was 68 alone for 10 years, 28 days, from losing everything. The foreclosure notice hung on her fridge like a death sentence. Every reason to keep that door locked. She opened it. "Drop your city in the comments. I want to see how far this travels. Hit subscribe. You'll want to see how this ends. Trust me on that." The man blocking her doorway was a wall of ice and desperation. "Ma'am, I'm Marcus Sullivan. My brothers are freezing to death." Maggie looked past him. Bodies scattered across her yard like war casualties. One wasn't moving at all. "How many? 20. Get them inside now." His eyes widened. "Ma'am, you want to argue or you want them to live? Move." And he turned bellowed into the storm. "Everyone inside now." They came like a flood. Massive men stumbling through her door, tracking ice and snow. Each one stopped to remove his boots before entering. Even dying, they remembered their mothers. "Living room," Maggie pointed. "Help each other. I'll get the fire going." A young voice, thin with terror. "Marcus, this is Danny. He's not breathing right." Maggie turned. A kid couldn't be 25 holding up another man who'd gone slack. "Couch, now. Someone needs to lie with him. Body heat." A giant with a shaved head didn't hesitate. Stripped his jacket, climbed on the couch, wrapped himself around the unconscious man. "I got you, kid. I got you." Maggie watched for half a second, then spun toward Marcus. "Kitchen." He followed. She measured coffee grounds' movements, sharp and efficient. "So what the hell are 20 Hell's Angels doing riding through Montana in a blizzard?" Marcus flinched. "You know who we are." "I watch news. I'm old, not blind." She set the percolator on the stove. "Well, funeral. Brother of ours died last week. Ricardo Martinez. We called him Angel. Sorry for your loss." "Thank you." He paused. Angel was 87, founding member. For 20 years he secretly funded a children's hospital. Nobody knew until his lawyer read the will. Maggie's hand stopped moving. A Hell's Angel funding a children's hospital. He used to say the world calls you a monster anyway. Might as well do good while they're not looking. The words punched through her chest. Thomas. That was exactly something Thomas would say. "So you're riding to his funeral?" "Were. Storm hit. Bikes died. GPS brought us here." Marcus's voice dropped. "To the only light in 20 miles. Lucky my husband insisted on keeping the porch light on. Your husband, Thomas, died 10 years ago. I'm sorry." Maggie poured coffee, handed him a cup. "How's the kid, Danny?" "Brick's keeping him alive." "Brick, the giant, that's him." "What's his story?" Marcus almost smiled. "Middle school teacher, 8th grade English, 14 years. Maggie stared. That man taught children. His students loved him. Quit when they started cutting arts programs. Said he couldn't watch kids' spirits die. Marcus shrugged. Now he runs a literacy program. Teaches kids who fell through the cracks. You're not what I expected. Nobody expects us to be what we are, which is broken men who found family. The coffee finished. Marcus wrapped his hands around the cup like it was salvation. Your story, Maggie said. Tell me. He took a long drink, buying time. 25 years ago, I was running from bad people, violent people. Winter storm not as bad as this, but bad enough. My bike started dying. I didn't know what was wrong. Just knew if it stopped, I was dead. Maggie's heart started pounding. I saw a light. Farmhouse. Long driveway. Almost didn't stop. Thought, who helps a stranger who looks like me? But I was desperate. She couldn't breathe. So I knocked. Man answered. Older guy mechanic's hands-kind eyes. Took one look at me, leather wild-eyed running, and said, "Looks like you need help, son." Oh, God. Brought me to his workshop. Fixed my bike. 3 hours? Didn't ask questions. Didn't ask what I'd done. Just fixed it. Maggie gripped the counter. When he finished, I pulled out my wallet. $40, all I had. He pushed my hand away. Said, "Your money's no good here. Just promise me something." She knew. She knew what was coming because Thomas said it to everyone. Promise when you can help someone else, you do it. That's how you pay me back. Pass it on. Thomas. The name came out broken. Marcus's cup hit the floor. Shattered. Neither moved. What did you say? His name was Thomas. Thomas Chen. Thomas Chen. The mechanic who worked out of his barn. You know my husband. Marcus stood, legs shaking. Ma'am, your husband saved my life. The room tilted. 25 years ago, Marcus said. Winter storm, broken bike, a man who showed me kindness when he should have slammed the door. His voice cracked. I've been trying to find him ever since. To say thank you. To tell him he saved my soul, not just my life. He's gone. 10 years gone. I know. Found out 2 years ago. Realized I'd never get to say it. They stood there, two strangers connected by a thread spun 25 years ago. He knew, Maggie said. Marcus looked at her. Thomas knew. Maybe not you specifically, but he knew it mattered. Used to say kindness was like stones in a pond. You can't see where the ripples go, but they go. Marcus crossed the kitchen in 2 steps. Knelt. This massive biker kneeling with tears on his face. Maggie Chen, I made a promise to your husband 25 years ago. Tonight I keep it. I saw the papers, the foreclosure notice. Shame burned her face. Not your concern? It is now. I spent 25 years paying it forward. Now I pay it back, to the source. Marcus, I can't. You can. You will. Because it's what Thomas would have done. A shout from the living room. Marcus, Danny's waking up. Marcus looked at her. We're not done. Apparently not. They walked back together. Danny was sitting up, color returning, Brick's arms still around him. Hey, kid, Marcus said. Welcome back. Did we die? Nope. Closed, though. Danny looked around, at 20 men in a stranger's living room, at the old woman with tears on her face. Who? This is Maggie Chen, Marcus said. She just saved all our lives. 20 faces turned. 20 men looked at her with something she'd never expected. Reverence. Ma'am, Danny said, I don't know how to thank you. Stay warm. Don't be stupid. Maggie's voice went brisk. Anyone else still cold? A few hands. I'm making pancakes. Thomas's recipe, 20 minutes. There are blankets in the hall closet. Help yourselves. Ma'am, we can't impose. You're already here. Already dripping on my floors. Might as well feed you. She paused. Unless you'd rather freeze. Nobody moved. Thought so. Get comfortable. Someone clean up that broken cup. And in the kitchen, her hands shook. 20 Hell's Angels. Thomas's ghost. A foreclosure notice. And hope. Impossible, terrifying hope. She pulled out the mixing bowl. Flour, eggs, milk. Proportions memorized 43 years ago. Thomas's pancakes. The ones she'd made every Sunday until the Sunday he didn't wake up. She hadn't made them in 10 years. Need help. Brick in the doorway, trying to make himself smaller. Can you crack eggs? Taught home ec for 3 years before they cut it. Then move. He washed his hands, started cracking. Started talking about the kids he taught. The 12-year-old who couldn't read until Brick spent 6 months one-on-one. The girl labeled unteachable, who was reading at grade level now. These kids just need someone to believe in them. Show them they're worth it. Like Thomas did for Marcus. Brick stopped. He told you. He told me. Then you understand. We're not what people think. Starting to see that. They worked in silence. Mixed batter. Heated the griddle. Marcus appeared again. Maggie, can I ask something? Ask. Why'd you let us in? You didn't know us. Didn't know if we were dangerous. Why open the door? The room went silent. 20 men stopped breathing. Maggie thought about Thomas. The stranger in the rain. 43 years of watching him open their home. Because my husband taught me fear is a choice. I chose a long time ago not to let it choose for me. He sounds like a good man, Danny said quietly. He was. Thomas. Died 10 years ago. I'm sorry. Thank you. She poured batter onto the griddle, watched it bubble. Strange thing, Thomas spent his whole life helping travelers. Anyone who broke down. Had a gift with engines. Could fix anything. Marcus went still. What was his name? Thomas. Thomas Chen. Brick's spatula clattered to the floor. The mechanic, Marcus breathed. The one with the barn on Route 47. Maggie's pulse hammered. You know about the barn. Ma'am, every biker in 3 states knew that barn. Thomas Chen would fix anyone's bike. Didn't matter if you could pay. He just did it. He never told me that. Probably didn't think it was worth mentioning. But ma'am, Marcus's voice broke. Your husband was a legend. An absolute legend. We all heard stories. What stories? About how he'd fix bikes at midnight, feed riders who couldn't pay, give them a place to sleep. Marcus shook his head. We thought he was a myth, a story about how people should be. He was real, Maggie whispered. And he saved my life. And now 25 years later I'm in his home, with his widow, who just saved mine. The pancakes were burning. Maggie flipped them too late. I'm sorry, I'm not... Let me, Brick said gently. You sit. Maggie sat. Legs wouldn't hold. Marcus knelt beside her. Maggie, listen very carefully. I'm listening. What Thomas did, it wasn't just fixing my bike. He looked at me, this punk running from violence, and treated me like I mattered. Like I was worth saving. You were. Didn't think so then. But Thomas did. Because of one night, one moment of kindness from a stranger, I changed my entire life. Joined the Angels not to be an outlaw, but to find brotherhood. Family. Spent every year since trying to live up to what Thomas saw in me. Maggie couldn't stop crying. Now I find out his widow's about to lose everything. That the house where he showed me grace is going to some bank that doesn't give a damn. Marcus took her hands. That ends tonight. Marcus. I'm calling Ghost, David Martinez, national president. When I tell him about you, about Thomas, he's mobilizing every chapter in this country. That's not... It's absolutely necessary. Thomas Chen's legacy doesn't end with a foreclosure notice. It ends with us protecting the woman he loved and the home he built. Pancakes ready. Brick started plating. Ma'am, he handed her the first plate. Eat something. 3 perfect circles. Crispy edges, fluffy centers. Exactly like Thomas made them. These are his pancakes. Then they're perfect, Marcus said. They ate in the living room. 20 men telling stories, rides they'd taken, brothers they'd lost, families they'd built from broken childhoods. Danny talked about his mother raising him alone. Brick about the kids who reminded him why he taught. A man named Preacher, about losing his wife and daughter to a drunk driver, how the club kept him from the bottle. Every story a thread in a tapestry Maggie hadn't known existed. "This is what Thomas believed," she said. "Everyone deserves a second chance. Everyone deserves kindness." "Your husband was wise," Preacher said. "He was stubborn, talked too much, snored like a freight train. But yes, wise too." Laughter. Good laughter. Healing laughter. Marcus stood. "Brothers, attention." Silence. "I want to tell you about the woman who opened her door tonight," he told them. About Thomas. About 25 years ago. About the promise. About the debt. When he finished, nobody breathed. "So here's what we do. When we leave tomorrow, I'm calling Ghost, telling him everything. Then we're coming back." "Coming back?" Danny asked. "With an army, with help, with whatever it takes to make sure this woman never loses her home." Brick stood. "Ma'am, you saved us. That means something." "Everything," Preacher added. "Loyalty is currency. You've earned more than you know." Maggie stood slowly. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Marcus said. "Say you'll let us honor Thomas by taking care of his wife." She looked at 20 faces, strangers who weren't strangers. "Yes." The roar shook the walls. Men stood embraced, celebrated. Maggie found herself surrounded by leather and tattoos and arms that held her like she was precious. "We're coming back," Marcus said. "And we're bringing everyone." "How many?" "As many as it takes." Night deepened. Storm raged. But in Maggie's house, surrounded by hell's angels who'd become family, she felt something dead for 10 years. Hope. Pancakes gone. Fire down to embers. Men drifted to sleep where they sat. Maggie found blankets moved through her home like a mother. Marcus stayed awake. Sat by the fire, staring. "Can't sleep." Maggie sat beside him. "Don't sleep much, haven't for years." "The things you've seen." "Yeah." Quiet. "I'm not a good man, Maggie. Made choices I can't take back. But I've tried every day for 25 years to be better than I was. That's all we can do." Thomas said redemption wasn't a destination. It was a direction. Long as you keep moving toward light, you're not lost. Marcus looked at her. He really said that, word for word. I wish I'd known him better. Wish I'd had more than one night. One night was enough. Look what you became. Thomas would be proud. You think so? I know so. They sat watching the fire die. Outside, the storm screamed. Inside, peace. "When this is over," Marcus said, "when we fix your house, pay your debts, make you secure, what will you do?" "Don't know. Spent so long surviving, I forgot how to live." "You'll figure it out. We'll help. All of us." "Why does this matter so much?" Marcus was quiet. When he spoke, his voice barely carried. "Because when I knocked on Thomas's door, I was ready to die. Given up. Figured the storm would take me or the men chasing me would catch up. Either way over. I was okay with it." He struggled with words. Then Thomas opened the door, looked at me, stranger trouble burden, and said, "Come in, son. Let's get you warm." In that moment, Maggie, I realized maybe the world wasn't all cruel. Maybe people still gave a damn about strangers. Maybe I was worth saving. Tears on Maggie's face. Thomas didn't just fix my bike. He fixed something inside me, something broken beyond repair. I've spent every day since trying to live up to that kindness, trying to be who he saw. Marcus took her hand. "So when you ask why I'm calling in every favor to help a woman I just met, this is why. Thomas saw something worth saving in me. I see something worth saving in you. Thomas would have liked you. Hope so. Really hope so." Fire went out. Storm continued. But something lit in Maggie's chest that no storm could touch. Tomorrow would bring challenges. Bikers would leave. Foreclosure would loom. Loneliness would try to return. But tonight, surrounded by family she didn't know she had, Maggie Chen understood. She wasn't alone. The young one, Danny, stirred, sat up. "Mrs. Chen, call me Maggie." "Maggie, can I ask something?" "Sure, hon. When we leave tomorrow, will you be okay, alone again?" The question hung in the air. 20 men who'd been sleeping opened their eyes. Maggie looked at Danny. This kid who'd almost died, who was worried about her. "You know what Thomas used to tell me? He'd say, loneliness isn't about being alone. It's about thinking nobody cares if you exist." She looked around the room, at Marcus, at Brick, at Preacher, and all the others. "I don't think I'll be lonely anymore." Marcus's phone buzzed. He pulled it out, frowned at the screen. "It's Ghost, texting me at midnight." He read the message. His face went white. "What?" Maggie asked. He says, "Heard about Montana. Heard about Thomas Chen. Already making calls. Get her address. Army coming." "What does that mean?" Marcus looked up, eyes wide. "It means word's already spreading. Someone in our group must have posted something. Ghost doesn't move this fast unless—" His phone buzzed again. Then again. Then it didn't stop. Marcus stared at the screen. "Oh my God." "What?" "The brothers are responding. California, Nevada, Arizona, Texas, Oregon." He kept reading. "Washington, Florida, New York. They're all saying the same thing." "What are they saying?" Marcus's voice cracked. "They're saying, we're coming. Tell us when. Tell us where. We're coming." Maggie couldn't process it. "How many, Maggie?" Marcus looked at her, tears streaming. "I think every chapter in America just mobilized." The room erupted. Men grabbed phones, started texting, making calls. The house that had been silent moments ago exploded with voices. "Oakland chapter's in? Seattle says they're riding out tomorrow. Denver's already loading trucks. Phoenix is bringing supplies. Chicago's calling contractors they know." Marcus stood in the center of chaos, phone still buzzing, and looked at Maggie. "What did I tell you? I said we'd bring an army." This is insane. This is family. This is what Thomas built without even knowing it." Brick appeared, his own phone lighting up. "Ma'am, you need to understand something. In our world, legends matter. Stories matter. And Thomas Chen—" He shook his head. "Thomas Chen is the biggest legend we've got. The man who helped everyone, who never asked for anything, who believed we were worth saving. And now," Preacher added, "now we find out his widow's about to lose the house where all that kindness lived, where he worked, where he built his legacy." He looked around at the others. Every brother who ever benefited from Thomas's kindness directly or through someone he helped, they're all connected, and they're all coming. Danny stood still, shaky but determined. "Mrs. Chen, Maggie, do you understand what's about to happen?" "I really don't. You're about to see what happens when you plant kindness. You're about to see the harvest." Marcus's phone rang. He answered. "Ghost." He listened for a long moment, his expression shifting from shock to something close to awe. "You're sure that many—" Pause. Okay, I'll tell her. Yes, sir." He hung up, turned to Maggie. "Ghost just got off the phone with the National Council. Every chapter president in the country. They just voted unanimously." "Voted on what?" "On making this an official club operation. The Thomas Chen Legacy Project, they're calling it. Ghost says—" His voice broke. "Ghost says to tell you that by the time they're done, not only will you keep your house, but the Thomas Chen Foundation will help hundreds of other families facing the same thing." The room swam. Maggie grabbed the back of a chair. "I don't deserve this. Stop saying that, Marcus said firmly. You opened your door. In a storm. To strangers who could have been dangerous. You fed us, gave us shelter, showed us the same kindness Thomas showed me 25 years ago. That's not nothing, Maggie. That's everything. He's right, Brick said. You didn't just save our lives tonight. You reminded us why we do what we do, why brotherhood matters, why Thomas mattered. Maggie looked at these 20 men, at their phones lighting up with messages, at the chain reaction spreading across the country because of one night, one storm, one open door. Thomas, she whispered to the empty air. Thomas, do you see this? Do you see what you started? The wind rattled the windows. In the silence that followed, Marcus spoke softly. He sees it. Wherever he is, he sees it. And he's proud. How do you know? Because if I were him, I'd be proud of you. Proud of what his kindness became. Proud that his wife carried on his legacy without even trying. Maggie wiped her eyes. So what happens now? Now, Marcus said, now we wait for the storm to pass. Tomorrow we ride out. And the day after that, the day after that. His smile was fierce. The day after that, an army comes to Montana. And Maggie Chen, you're going to see something that hasn't happened in the history of the Hells Angels. What's that? Every chapter in America writing for the same cause, not for revenge, not for business, not for anything, except to honor a good man's memory and protect his widow. He paused. Let the weight of it settle. You're about to become the most protected woman in this country, and anyone who tries to take your house. He looked around at his brothers. They're going to wish they'd never been born. The others nodded, made promises, swore oaths, and Maggie Chen, 68 years old, widowed for 10 years, 28 days from foreclosure, stood in her living room, surrounded by Hell's Angels, and understood her life had just changed forever. Not because of money, not because of power, but because 30 years ago, her husband had opened a door to a stranger in a storm. And that stranger had never forgotten. The ripples Thomas had set in motion were coming home. All of them. At once. And nothing, not banks, not developers, not foreclosure notices, not fear itself would stand in their way. Outside, the storm began to break. Inside, a new storm was just beginning. One made of loyalty, brotherhood, and the kind of love that outlives death. Marcus raised his coffee cup. To Thomas Chen, the man who saved us all. 20 voices echoed, to Thomas. Maggie raised her own cup, tears streaming. To Thomas, and to all of you. Thank you. Don't thank us yet, Marcus said with a grin that was equal parts warmth and warning. Wait till you see what's coming. Dawn broke gray and unforgiving. Maggie woke to silence, the kind that comes after storms, after revelations, after your entire world shifts overnight. She walked to her kitchen. Marcus sat at the table phone pressed to his ear, speaking in low, urgent tones. I don't care how you do it. Get them here. Yes, all of them. By Friday. He looked up, saw Maggie nodded once. I'll call you back. Coffee? She asked. Please. She poured 2 cups. Her hands were steadier than yesterday. Yesterday when 20 strangers became family. Yesterday when Marcus's face went white at Thomas's name. Yesterday when everything changed. How many? She asked. How many what? How many are coming? Marcus took a long drink. Ghost says 300. Maybe more. Depends on who can get time off work, who can afford gas, who can... 300 Hells Angels. Coming here. Yes, ma'am. To my house. To save your house. Maggie sat down hard. This is insane. This is family. A toilet flushed somewhere. Footsteps overhead. The house was waking up 20 men stretching, yawning, coming back to life in a stranger's home that wasn't strange anymore. Brick appeared in the doorway, looking sheepish. "Ma'am, I hope you don't mind I used your shower." "You smell better. That's all that matters." He grinned. "Danny's up. Kids got color back. Talking about breakfast. I'll make more pancakes. You don't have to. I'm making pancakes. Go tell the others." Brick disappeared. Marcus watched her pull out the mixing bowl. "You okay?" he asked. "I don't know what I am." She measured flour without looking. "Yesterday I was alone. Broke. 28 days from homeless. Today I've got 20 bikers in my house and 300 more coming. I don't know how to process that. One day at a time." That's what Thomas used to say. "Smart man." She cracked eggs into the bowl. "Marcus, what happens when they get here 300 people? What's the plan?" "We fix your house, pay your debts, make sure you're secure. And then we make sure nobody ever threatens you again." Something in his voice made her look up. "What does that mean?" "It means—" The landline rang. Sharp. Insistent. Maggie wiped her hands, answered. "Hello? Mrs. Chen?" A woman's voice. Clipped. Professional. "This is Patricia from First Mountain Bank. I'm calling about your mortgage payment." Maggie's stomach dropped. "Patricia, I told you." "I'm aware of what you told me, Mrs. Chen. However, the bank has reviewed your account, and we're prepared to offer a solution." "What kind of solution?" "We've arranged for your mortgage to be sold to a private buyer. Someone willing to work with you on more favorable terms." Maggie gripped the counter. "Sold to who?" "A Mr. Harrison Blake. He's a developer who specializes in—" "I know who Harrison Blake is." Silence on the other end. "Mrs. Chen, this is an excellent opportunity. Mr. Blake is willing to extend your payment deadline by 60 days if you agree to the sale. All you need to do is sign the paperwork." "And if I don't?" Patricia's voice cooled. "Then foreclosure proceeds as scheduled. 27 days from today." Marcus was on his feet, crossing to her. Maggie put the call on speaker. "Patricia, I need time to think about this." "Of course. Mr. Blake will be visiting your property this afternoon to discuss the terms." 2:00. "I trust you'll be available." "I don't want him on my property." "Mrs. Chen, I strongly advise you to meet with him. This may be your last opportunity to avoid foreclosure." The line went dead. Maggie set down the phone. Her hands were shaking again. "Who's Harrison Blake?" Marcus asked. "Developer. Been buying up properties all over the county. Elderly people mostly. Forces them out. Tears down their homes. Builds, I don't know, shopping centers or something. And he just bought your mortgage. Apparently. Without your knowledge. Without your consent. Is that even legal?" Marcus pulled out his phone. "I'm about to find out." He dialed, put it on speaker. 3 rings, then. "This is Margaret." "Margaret, it's Marcus Sullivan. I need you." "Marcus." The woman's voice was sharp, intelligent. "What's wrong?" "I'm in Montana. Got a situation. Widow facing foreclosure. Bank just sold her mortgage to a developer without her knowledge. Guy's coming to her house this afternoon to pressure her into signing." "Name?" "Harrison Blake." Silence. Then, "Oh, you've got to be kidding me." "You know him." "Everyone in real estate law knows him. He's been investigated 3 times for predatory lending practices. Never enough evidence to prosecute, but the pattern's clear. He targets elderly homeowners, buys their distressed mortgages, then forces them out." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Can he do that legally?" "Depends. If the bank sold the mortgage as an asset sale, yes. If there was fraud involved in the original loan terms, no. I'd need to see the paperwork." Can you get here by 2 o'clock? Margaret laughed. Marcus, I'm in Oakland. I'll pay for a private jet. The laughter stopped. You're serious? Dead serious? This woman, her husband, saved my life 25 years ago. I'm not letting some vulture take her home. All right, give me the address. I'll be there by 1:30. Marcus rattled off the information. Hung up. Looked at Maggie. Margaret Chen. No relation before you ask. Best real estate attorney in California. She'll handle this. Marcus, I can't afford. You're not paying. The club is. I can't accept that. You already did, last night when you said yes. He picked up his coffee. Besides, Margaret owes me a favor. Big one. This makes us even. Footsteps on the stairs. Danny appeared, looking young and uncertain. Mrs. Chen, is everything okay? Fine, hon. Just bank nonsense. I heard raised voices. Nothing we can't handle. She forced a smile. You hungry? Starving. Good. Sit down. Pancakes coming up. She cooked. Marcus made phone calls. Danny watched them both with the uncertain expression of someone who'd survived death and didn't quite know what to do with the gift of another day. Mrs. Chen, he said finally. Maggie. Maggie, can I ask you something? Sure. Last night, why'd you really open the door? You could have called the cops, could have let us freeze. Why risk it? Maggie flipped a pancake. My husband used to say fear makes you smaller. Kindness makes you bigger. I spent 10 years getting smaller. Last night I chose bigger. Even though we're Hell's Angels. Especially because you're Hell's Angels. If I only showed kindness to people who looked safe, that wouldn't be kindness. That'd be strategy. Danny was quiet for a moment. Your husband sounds like he was something special. He was stubborn and messy and left his tools everywhere. But yeah, he was special. The pancakes were ready. She plated them, handed them to Danny. He ate like he'd been starving for weeks. Marcus's phone buzzed. He checked it, frowned. Ghost just sent coordinates. First wave arriving in 4 hours. 4 hours? Maggie's voice pitched up. I thought you said Friday. That's the main group. First wave is the advance team. They're coming from Reno, left at midnight. How many in the first wave? 20. So I'll have 40 bikers in my house by noon. More like in your yard. We'll set up tents, won't crowd you. Tents, in January, in Montana. We've got cold weather gear, we'll be fine. Maggie looked around her kitchen. At the coffee cups, at the pancakes, at Marcus on his phone coordinating an invasion force, at Danny eating like the world made sense again. This is really happening, she said. This is really happening. I need to go to town, buy supplies, food, coffee. I can't feed 40 people on what I have. I'll go with you. You'll attract attention. That's the point. They took Maggie's truck. Marcus rode shotgun, scanning everything like he expected trouble. Probably because he did expect trouble. The drive to town took 15 minutes. 15 minutes of silence except for the engine, and Marcus's occasional direction check on his phone. You're organizing this like a military operation, Maggie said. That's because it is one. We've got logistics, supply chains, security rotations. Ghost is running it like we're deploying to a war zone. Over one house. Over Thomas's house. Over his legacy. Over you. Marcus looked at her. You still don't understand what you mean to us, do you? I'm starting to. They pulled into town. Henderson, Montana. Population 847. The kind of place where everybody knew everybody and strangers were discussed for weeks. Maggie parked at Morrison's general store. Marcus followed her inside. The store went quiet. Linda Morrison stood behind the register, her expression shifting from surprise to something close to fear. Behind her, her daughter Katie whispered to another woman. Morning, Linda, Maggie said evenly. Maggie. Linda's eyes went to Marcus, to his leather cut, to the patches. I heard you had some trouble last night. No trouble, just travelers caught in the storm. Travelers. Linda's voice was flat. That's what we're calling them. Marcus stepped forward. Ma'am, I'm Marcus Sullivan. My brothers and I are grateful for Mrs. Chen's hospitality. We're here to repay that kindness. By shopping in our store, by being respectful customers who pay cash. The woman behind Katie spoke up. We don't want trouble here. Neither do we, Marcus said calmly. We just want supplies. Linda, Maggie said. I need coffee, flour, eggs, a lot of both. Can you help me or should I drive to Billings? Linda hesitated. The mention of Billings losing business to the bigger town made her calculation shift. We can help. Katie, start pulling items. They shopped in tense silence, filled 2 carts. Marcus loaded everything, while Maggie paid in cash from the club fund he'd given her that morning. Thank you, Maggie said at the register. Linda didn't respond. They were loading the truck when a black sedan pulled up. Expensive. Out of place. The driver's door opened. Harrison Blake stepped out. He was exactly what Maggie remembered. Mid-50s. Expensive suit. Smile like a shark who'd found blood in the water. Mrs. Chen? What a pleasant surprise. Mr. Blake. His eyes went to Marcus, to the patches. The smile widened. You've made some interesting friends. They're guests. I'm sure they are. Blake stepped closer. Marcus moved to intercept. Blake raised his hands. Just here to chat. No need for intimidation. Then chat from over there, Marcus said. Blake's smile thinned. Mrs. Chen, I believe you received a call from the bank this morning. I did. Then you know I'm now the primary holder of your mortgage. I'm here to discuss terms. We agreed on 2 o'clock. I was in the area, thought I'd save us both time. He pulled out a folder. I've prepared paperwork. Very generous terms. All you need to do is sign, and this whole unpleasant situation goes away. What situation is that? Your foreclosure, your debt, your... He gestured at the truck full of supplies. Your financial struggles. I'm not signing anything. Mrs. Chen, I don't think you understand your position. You're 27 days from losing everything. I'm offering you a way out. By taking my house. By buying your house at fair market value, you could relocate to town, find a nice apartment, live comfortably. That's not my home. Blake's mask slipped just for a second. Cold calculation underneath. Mrs. Chen, I'm being generous here, but my generosity has limits. Sign now or when the foreclosure happens, you'll get nothing. Not a penny. And you'll be out on the street with 30 days' notice. Marcus stepped fully between them. She said no. Meeting's over. Blake looked at him. Really looked at him. You think you can intimidate me? You think a motorcycle gang can... Hell's Angels. Not a gang. A club. Marcus's voice was steel. And I'm not intimidating you. I'm informing you. Mrs. Chen has legal representation. Margaret Chen. Maybe you've heard of her. Blake's face went white. Yeah, Marcus said. That Margaret Chen. She'll be here at 1:30. If you still want that 2 o'clock meeting, I suggest you bring your own lawyers. Plural. You're going to need them. Blake looked between them, calculation running behind his eyes. Finally, he stepped back. This isn't over. No, Marcus agreed. It's just beginning. And Mr. Blake, when word gets out about your business practices, and it will get out you're going to wish you'd never knocked on this woman's door. Blake got in his car, drove away, tires spitting gravel. Maggie let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Did you see his face when you mentioned Margaret? He knows her, and he knows she doesn't lose. They drove back in silence. Maggie's hands were steady on the wheel, but her mind was racing. 27 days. A mortgage sold without her consent. A developer who looked at her home like it was already his. And 300 Hell's Angels riding to stop him. Marcus. Yeah. What if this doesn't work? What if the law's on his side? What if... Then we find another way. What other way? Marcus looked at her. Do you trust me? I don't know you. Fair. Do you trust that I won't let Blake win? Maggie thought about it. About Marcus kneeling in her kitchen. About his voice breaking when he spoke Thomas's name. About the promise he'd made 25 years ago and kept every day since. Yes, she said. I trust that. Then that's enough. They got back to find the house transformed. Motorcycles lined the driveway, tents going up in the yard, men moving with military precision, establishing camp, organizing supplies, setting up a command center. Ghost stood in the middle of it all, directing traffic. He was older than Marcus, maybe 65, with a gray beard that reached his chest and eyes that had seen everything twice. He saw the truck walked over. Marcus, Mrs. Chen. Ghost, this is Maggie. Maggie, this is David Martinez. We call him Ghost. Ghost extended his hand. Ma'am, it's an honor. The honor's mine. I understand you knew Angel. Ghost's expression softened. He was my uncle. Raised me after my parents died. Everything I am, I owe to him. I'm sorry for your loss. Thank you. But Ma'am Angel talked about Thomas Chen for 40 years. Used to tell me stories about the mechanic who helped him when he was young and stupid. Said Thomas changed his life with one conversation. Maggie's throat tightened. Thomas never mentioned meeting him. Probably didn't think it was worth mentioning. But for Angel, Ghost shook his head. It was everything. And when Marcus called, told me about you, about this house, about what's happening. He looked around at the camp being built. This is Angel's legacy, too. This is us honoring both of them. A truck pulled up. Not a motorcycle. An actual moving truck. 3 men got out, started unloading building supplies. What's all that? Maggie asked. Roof repair, Ghost said. Your roof's got leaks. We're fixing them. I didn't ask. You opened your door. That's all the asking we needed. Ghost pulled out a clipboard. We've got contractors coming tomorrow. Plumbers on Thursday, electricians Friday. By the time the main force arrives Saturday, your house will be weather-tight and solid. Ghost, I can't pay for this. Club's paying. It's already handled. But, ma'am, Ghost's voice was gentle but firm. You saved 20 lives last night. You gave us shelter, fed us, showed us kindness when you had every reason to lock the door. We don't take that lightly. We don't forget it. And we sure as hell don't let it go unpaid. Maggie couldn't speak. Marcus put a hand on her shoulder. Let them help, Maggie. It's what they need to do. What we all need to do. She nodded, not trusting her voice. Ghost checked his watch. Margaret landing in an hour. I've got 3 brothers picking her up from the airstrip. Blake's meeting is at 2. We'll have legal representation video recording and enough witnesses to make sure everything's documented. You think he'll try something? I know he will. Men like Blake don't give up easy. But men like Blake also don't expect resistance. He's used to elderly widows with no resources and no backup. Ghost grinned. He's about to get a very different experience. At 1:30, a black SUV pulled up. Margaret Chen stepped out. She was small Asian, maybe 50, with sharp eyes behind designer glasses and the kind of presence that filled a room before she said a word. Marcus? She walked straight to him. This better be worth the jet fuel. It is. Margaret, this is Maggie Chen. Maggie Margaret Chen. No relation. Margaret's expression softened when she looked at Maggie. Mrs. Chen, I've read your file. I'm very sorry for what you're going through. Thank you for coming. Thank Marcus. He called in a favor I've owed him for 15 years. She pulled out a briefcase. I've reviewed the documents he sent. The mortgage sale is legal, but barely. Blake's on thin ice. If I can prove the original loan had predatory terms, the entire sale is void. Can you prove it? Working on it. In the meantime, I need you to not sign anything. Not a single piece of paper. Understand? I understand. Good. Now, where's this meeting happening? My kitchen. Perfect. I'll set up recording equipment. We'll document everything. At 2 o'clock exactly, Harrison Blake's car returned. This time he brought 2 other men. Lawyers by the look of them. Maggie opened the door. Blake smiled. Mrs. Chen, thank you for seeing me. Come in. We'll talk in the kitchen. He walked in, saw Margaret, froze. Ms. Chen. Mr. Blake. What a pleasant surprise. Blake's lawyers exchanged glances. One whispered, That's Margaret Chen. I know who it is, Blake hissed. They sat around Maggie's kitchen table. Margaret set up a camera. For documentation purposes, you don't mind, do you, Mr. Blake? I do mind, actually. Then we can end this meeting right now. Margaret's smile was sharp. Your choice. Blake settled in his chair. Fine. Record away. Excellent. Now, Mr. Blake, you've claimed ownership of Mrs. Chen's mortgage through an asset purchase from First Mountain Bank. Do you have documentation proving this sale? Blake pulled out papers. Margaret reviewed them, her expression never changing. These documents show the bank sold the mortgage as a distressed asset. Were you aware that such sales require notification to the borrower under Montana state law? Mrs. Chen was notified this morning. After the sale was complete, the law requires prior notification, minimum 72 hours. Margaret looked up. You didn't follow the law, Mr. Blake. Blake's jaw tightened. That's a technicality. The law is made of technicalities, and this one invalidates your purchase. She pulled out her own documents. I've also been reviewing Mrs. Chen's original loan terms. The interest rate adjustment clause violates the Truth in Lending Act. The balloon payment structure violates Montana consumer protection statutes. And the prepayment penalties exceed federal guidelines. Those terms were negotiated with the bank. Those terms were illegal. And since the original loan is void, any sale based on that loan is also void. Margaret leaned forward. Mr. Blake, you don't own this mortgage. You never did. And I'm filing paperwork this afternoon to prove it. Blake stood. You can't do this. I already am. And Mr. Blake, I'm also filing complaints with the State Attorney General, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. Your business practices have been under investigation before. I think it's time for a closer look. Blake's face went red. This is harassment. This is justice. There's a difference. Blake looked at Maggie. You're making a mistake. A serious mistake. Marcus appeared in the doorway, along with Ghost and Brick, and about 15 other Hell's Angels, all of them filling the hallway, the living room, watching silently. I think the mistake's already been made, Marcus said quietly. And it wasn't hers. Blake grabbed his papers, signaled his lawyers. They left without another word. The door slammed. Silence. Then Margaret laughed. Well, that went better than expected. Is it over? Maggie asked. Not yet. He'll fight. But I've got enough to keep him tied up in court for months. And once the investigation starts... She shrugged. Men like Blake have a lot of skeletons. We just need to start digging. Ghost's phone rang. He answered, listened, his face going serious. When? How many? He hung up. Looked at Marcus. We've got a problem. What kind? Blake made some calls, called in some favors of his own. Sheriff's Department just got an anonymous tip about illegal activity at this address. They're sending deputies. 20 minutes out. On what grounds? Doesn't matter. By the time we prove there's nothing illegal happening, they'll have found some reason to arrest someone. Disturbing the peace. Trespassing. Something. Maggie's stomach dropped. They're going to arrest you. That's the plan. Get us out of the way so Blake can intimidate you without witnesses. I won't let them. You won't have a choice. Margaret was already on her phone. I'm calling the ACLU. This is harassment. Targeted enforcement. We can fight it. Not in 20 minutes, Ghost said. Marcus looked at Maggie. I need you to trust me. Can you do that? What are you planning? Insurance. He pulled out his phone, made a call. It's Marcus. We're code red. Yes now. Full mobilization. He hung up. Turned to Ghost. How many can you get here in the next hour? 50. Maybe 75 if they ride hard. Do it. And call every journalist you know. Local news, national news, anyone with a camera. I want this property covered in witnesses before the sheriff arrives. Marcus, what are you doing? Maggie asked. Making sure Blake can't hide what he's doing. He wants to intimidate us, fine. Let him do it on camera. Let him explain why 20 deputies are harassing a 68-year-old widow and the people trying to help her. Ghost was already on the phone. Brick was directing traffic. Within minutes, motorcycles were spreading out, creating a perimeter. Margaret looked impressed. You've done this before. More times than I'd like to admit. A news van pulled up, then another. By the time the sheriff's cars arrived, there were 4 news crews and close to 70 bikers, all of them standing quietly, hands visible, not threatening but not backing down either. Sheriff Frank Cooper stepped out of his car, looked around, sighed. Maggie, we need to talk. Then talk, Frank. I got a complaint. Multiple complaints, actually. Noise disturbance, illegal camping, threatening behavior. From who? Anonymous tips. From Harrison Blake, you mean? Frank's expression said she was right. I still have to investigate. Then investigate. You won't find anything illegal. These people are my guests. They're on my property. They're not threatening anyone. Maggie, I've got 20 deputies here. I need to do my job. Marcus stepped forward. Sheriff, I'm Marcus Sullivan. These are my brothers. We're here to help Mrs. Chen repair her house. Everything we're doing is legal. We have permits for the construction work. We're not causing disturbance, and we're certainly not threatening anyone. So all these motorcycles, all these tents, this is just home repair. Yes, sir. Frank looked at the news cameras, at the bikers, at Maggie. This is above my pay grade. Then call your supervisor, Margaret said, stepping forward. I'm Mrs. Chen's attorney. If you're planning to arrest anyone, I want to know the charges. I'm not arresting anyone, yet. But I need to, one of the deputies interrupted. Sheriff, we've got a problem. What kind of problem? 3 more news vans just pulled up, and... He lowered his voice. And the mayor's on the phone. He's asking what the hell is going on. Frank closed his eyes. Everyone stay put. I need to make some calls. He walked back to his car. The deputies stayed, but they weren't aggressive. They just looked confused and outnumbered. Margaret smiled. This is going exactly how I hoped. You wanted them to come, Maggie asked. I wanted them to see they can't push you around quietly. Blake's whole strategy relies on isolation. Elderly people with no resources, no witnesses, no one to fight for them. She gestured at the crowd. You have an army, and now everyone knows it. The cameras kept rolling. Reporters approached asking questions. Marcus handled them smoothly, explaining about Thomas, about the kindness shown 25 years ago, about the Hells Angels honoring a debt. By the time Frank came back, the story was already going viral. All right, Frank said. Here's what's happening. My supervisor says to stand down. Says this is a civil matter, not criminal. Says if I arrest anyone without cause, the department's looking at lawsuits. Smart supervisor, Margaret said. He also says to tell you, Mrs. Chen, that if you need anything, we're here to help. Legitimate help. Not this. He waved at the deputies. This harassment nonsense. Thank you, Frank. He nodded, signaled his deputies. They left. The news van stayed. Ghost clapped Marcus on the shoulder. That was smart thinking. Blake made a mistake. He thought we'd back down. He thought we'd hide. He doesn't know us very well. No, Marcus agreed. He doesn't. Maggie stood in her yard, surrounded by bikers and lawyers and journalists watching the sunset paint Montana orange and gold. 24 hours ago, she was alone. Now she had an army. Thank you, she said to Marcus. Don't thank me yet. This is just round 1. What's round 2? He smiled. Round 2 is when the rest of them arrive. When Blake realizes he's not just fighting one widow, he's fighting 1,000 brothers who won't stop until justice is done. And round 3 is when we make sure this never happens to anyone else. When we turn your story into a movement. Maggie looked at him. At this man Thomas had saved a lifetime ago. At the ripples still spreading from one act of kindness. Thomas would be proud, she said. He'd be right here with us, Marcus replied. Fighting. Because that's what good men do. They fight for people who can't fight for themselves. The cameras kept rolling. The army kept growing. And somewhere in heaven, Thomas Chen was probably laughing his ass off. Because his wife had just declared war. And she wasn't fighting alone. The news vans finally left around midnight, but the cameras had already done their damage. By morning, Maggie's story was everywhere. She woke to her phone ringing. Not the landline. Her cell. The one only 3 people had the number to. Hello. Mrs. Chen. This is Amanda Rodriguez from Good Morning America. We'd love to have you on the show tomorrow to discuss... Maggie hung up. The phone rang again immediately. Different number. Mrs. Chen, this is CNN. We're doing a segment on predatory lending and... She turned the phone off. Marcus was already in the kitchen. 3 laptops open, phone pressed to his ear. No, I said 200 folding chairs, not 20. Yes, by Friday. I don't care if you have to rent them from every church in Montana, get them here. What's happening? Maggie asked. He hung up, looked at her. You're viral. 8 million views overnight. Trending on every platform. The story's everywhere. That's good, right? It's complicated. Good because Blake can't hide anymore. Bad because... His phone buzzed. He checked it, frowned. Because you've got interview requests from 43 different media outlets, and someone just started a GoFundMe for you. A what? Crowdfunding. People donating money to help you keep your house. He turned one laptop toward her. You're at $200,000, and it's only been live for 6 hours. Maggie sat down hard. $200,000. From strangers. From people who saw your story and wanted to help. Thomas's story. Our story. He closed the laptop. Maggie, you need to understand what's happening. You're not just fighting for your house anymore. You're a symbol. Every elderly person who's been screwed by developers, every widow who's been left behind, every person who's felt powerless against the system, they see themselves in you. I didn't ask for that. Nobody asks for it. It just happens. His phone rang again. Hold on. Yeah, where? How many? His face went pale. Are you sure? Okay, we're prepared for that. He hung up, looked at Ghost, who'd just walked in. Blake made another move. What kind of move? He's filed an emergency injunction, claims we're running an illegal encampment on residential property, wants a judge to order us off the land by tomorrow morning. Ghost swore. Can he do that? He just did. Hearing's at 3 o'clock today. Margaret appeared already dressed, coffee in hand. I heard. I'm already on it. But Marcus, this is serious. If the judge sides with him, then what we leave, let Blake intimidate Maggie without witnesses. Then we fight it on appeal. but we have to play by the rules. Blake's not playing by the rules, which is why we will. Margaret set down her coffee. Trust me, I've been doing this longer than you've been alive. The high road wins, eventually. Eventually doesn't help if Maggie loses her house first. I'm standing right here, Maggie said quietly. And I can speak for myself. They both looked at her. You're right, Marcus said. I'm sorry. What do you want to do? I want to go to that hearing. I want to look that judge in the eye and tell him what's happening. I want... Her voice cracked. I want to fight. Margaret smiled. Good, because that's exactly what we're going to do. The hearing was in Henderson at the county courthouse. They arrived to find it surrounded. Not just by bikers, though there were plenty of those, but by regular people, families, elderly couples, people holding signs. Save Maggie's home. Blake is bully. Hell's Angels equals heroes. Maggie stared. Who are these people? Your neighbors, Ghost said. Your community. They saw the news. They know what Blake's been doing, and they're tired of it. Yet an elderly man approached, leaning on a cane. Mrs. Chen, I'm Howard Walsh. Blake took my farm 3 years ago. Used the same tactics. I didn't have anyone to fight for me. I'm here to fight for you. Mr. Walsh, I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Just win. Win for all of us. They walked into the courthouse. The gallery was packed. Every seat filled. People standing in the back. The judge, a woman in her 60s with steel gray hair, looked over her glasses at the crowd. This is highly irregular. Your Honor, Margaret stood. This is a matter of significant public interest. These people have a right to observe. Fine. But I want silence. Absolute silence. Any outbursts, and I clear the room. Understood? Everyone nodded. The judge turned to Blake's attorney. Mr. Stevens, you've filed an emergency injunction. Make your case. Stevens stood. He was younger than Maggie expected. Slick. Confident. Your Honor, the defendant's property has become an illegal encampment. Over 70 individuals are currently residing in tents on residential land zoned for single-family use. This violates county ordinances, creates public safety concerns, and constitutes a nuisance. Mrs. Chen, is this accurate? The judge asked. Maggie stood. Your Honor, these people are my guests. They're helping repair my home. They're not causing any problems. With respect, Your Honor, Stevens interrupted. The definition of guest doesn't extend to 70 people living in tents. This is clearly an organized encampment that violates zoning laws. Margaret rose. Your Honor, may I present evidence? Proceed. Margaret pulled out documents. These are permits for construction work on Mrs. Chen's property. Roof repair, plumbing, electrical, all properly filed and approved. The individuals camping on her land are contractors and volunteers assisting with this work. Montana law explicitly allows temporary housing for construction workers on the property where work is being performed. Stevens frowned. Your Honor, this is clearly a pretext. These aren't contractors. They're members of a motorcycle gang. Club, Marcus said quietly from his seat. We're a club, not a gang. The judge's eyes flicked to him. You are Marcus Sullivan, Your Honor, president of the Northern California chapter, Hell's Angels Motorcycle Club. We're here because Mrs. Chen's late husband helped one of our members 25 years ago. We're repaying that debt. By camping in her yard, by making sure she's not alone when people try to take advantage of her. Stevens jumped in. Your Honor, this proves my point. This is intimidation. My client, Mr. Blake, has a legal right to pursue his business interests without being threatened by... Threatened, Ghost stood. Every eye in the courtroom turned to him. Your Honor, I'm David Martinez. I can provide you with documentation of 17 complaints filed against Harrison Blake for predatory lending practices. Can provide you with names of elderly homeowners he's forced out of their properties using the exact same tactics he's using on Mrs. Chen. We're not threatening anyone. We're protecting someone who needs protection." The judge was quiet for a long moment. "Mr. Martinez, sit down." "Mr. Stevens, I'm inclined to agree that what's happening on Mrs. Chen's property, while unusual, does not appear to violate any statutes. Do you have evidence of actual illegal activity? The encampment itself is illegal. You've established that it's unusual. You haven't established that it's illegal. Permits are in order. No complaints from neighbors. No reports of criminal activity." She looked at Blake, who sat behind his attorney. "Mr. Blake, am I correct in understanding that you recently purchased Mrs. Chen's mortgage?" Blake stood. "Yes, Your Honor. Through a legal asset sale from—" "I'm aware of the process. What I'm not aware of is why you're seeking an injunction against people helping Mrs. Chen maintain her property. One might think you'd welcome improvements that increase the property's value." Blake's jaw tightened. "Your Honor, your concern is that Mrs. Chen has support, has witnesses, has people willing to fight for her." The judge leaned forward. "Mr. Blake, I've been on this bench for 23 years. I know intimidation when I see it, and I'm not inclined to use my court to facilitate it." "Your Honor, injunction denied. Mrs. Chen's guests may remain on her property as long as they're engaged in legitimate work and not violating any laws. This hearing is adjourned." The gavel came down. The gallery erupted. Not in cheers the judge had demanded silence, but in something better. A collective exhale. Relief. Blake shoved past his attorney, stormed out. Stevens gathered his papers quickly following. Margaret turned to Maggie. "That's round 2. Did we win?" "We didn't lose. That's almost as good." Outside the courthouse, the crowd had grown. News cameras everywhere. Reporters shouting questions. Marcus and Ghost formed a protective circle around Maggie, guiding her through. "Mrs. Chen, how do you feel about the judge's ruling?" "Mrs. Chen, what do you want to say to Harrison Blake?" "Mrs. Chen, is it true you're starting a foundation?" That last one made her stop. "What?" The reporter young woman with a bright smile pushed forward. "The GoFundMe page says excess funds will go to a foundation in your husband's name to help other families facing foreclosure. Is that true?" Maggie looked at Marcus. He shrugged. "I might have mentioned it to a reporter. Might have said we were planning something. People ran with it. You can't just start a foundation without asking me. Technically, we haven't started it yet. We're just saying we will, if you agree." You can't." Maggie stopped, looked at the reporter's camera, at the crowd watching, at the people holding signs with Thomas's name on them. Thomas Chen, kindness lives on. She thought about what Thomas would say, about 25 years of ripples spreading outward, about one act of kindness becoming hundreds. "Yes," she heard herself say. "Yes, we're starting a foundation, the Thomas Chen Foundation, to help families facing predatory lending, to make sure what's happening to me doesn't happen to anyone else." The crowd roared. Cameras flashed. Marcus grinned at her. "You're a natural," he said. "I'm terrified." "That's how you know you're doing something important." They made it back to the truck. Ghost drove. Marcus rode shotgun. Maggie sat in backhands, shaking, phone buzzing non-stop. "It's not stopping," she said. "It won't," Ghost replied. "Not now. You've become a story, and stories have momentum. I just want my house." "You'll get your house, and you'll get justice, and you'll help a lot of other people get theirs too." He glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "Whether you planned it or not." They got back to find even more motorcycles. The camp had tripled. People working everywhere, on the roof, on the barn, on the fence line, organizing supplies, cooking food, building something that looked like a stage. "What's that?" Maggie pointed. "Stage for Friday," Marcus said. "Ghost's idea." "Stage for what?" Ghost parked, turned to face her. "Maggie, by Friday we're expecting over 1,000 people. Hell's Angels from every chapter. Families who've been victims of predatory lending. Journalists, politicians maybe. This isn't just about your house anymore. It's become a rally, a movement." "I didn't ask for a movement. Movements don't ask permission. They just happen." He opened his door. "And you can either lead it or let it lead you. Your choice." Maggie sat in the truck for a moment after they left, trying to process. 1 week ago she was alone. Broke. Hopeless. Now she had an army, a foundation, a movement, all because she'd opened a door. A knock on the truck window startled her. A woman stood there. 50-something, well-dressed, kind eyes. Maggie rolled down the window. "Mrs. Chen, I'm Patricia Delgado." The name clicked. "From the bank, the one who called about the foreclosure." "Yes." Patricia's voice cracked. "I came to apologize, and to bring you something." She handed Maggie a folder. Thick, full of papers. "What is this? Evidence. Every communication between Blake and the bank. Every instruction he gave us about your property. Every illegal thing he asked us to do. I made copies before I quit this morning." Maggie stared at her. "You quit? I couldn't keep working there. Not after I saw what was happening. Not after I realized I was part of it." Tears ran down Patricia's face. "I'm so sorry. I was just following procedures. Just doing my job. I never thought about the person on the other end of the phone." Maggie got out of the truck, stood face to face with this woman who'd been calling her for months with foreclosure threats. "You were doing your job." "That's not an excuse." "Maybe not. But you're here now. You brought evidence. You quit to do the right thing." Maggie surprised herself by pulling Patricia into a hug. "That takes courage." Patricia sobbed against her shoulder. "I don't feel very courageous." "Courage isn't not being scared. It's being scared and doing the right thing anyway." Maggie stepped back. "Thomas used to say that. I'm starting to understand what he meant." Margaret appeared, saw the folder, her eyes lighting up. "Is that what I think it is?" Patricia nodded. "Everything. Email chains, phone records, instructions to pressure Mrs. Chen, other victims he targeted. It's all there." Margaret took the folder, flipped through it. Her smile was razor sharp. "This is enough. This is more than enough. Blake's done." "What do we do with it?" Maggie asked. "We turn it over to the FBI, the Attorney General, every regulatory body that has jurisdiction. And then—" Margaret's phone rang. She checked it. "And then we let them tear Blake's empire apart, brick by brick." She walked away, already dialing. Patricia looked at Maggie. "What do I do now?" Now you help us. We're starting a foundation. We'll need people who understand how banks work, how the system works, people who know where the bodies are buried." "You'd trust me. You're here. You brought evidence. You quit your job to do the right thing." Maggie smiled. "Yeah, I'd trust you." Patricia wiped her eyes. "Thank you. I don't deserve—" "Stop. Everyone keeps saying that. You deserve it. I deserve it. We all deserve kindness. We all deserve second chances." Maggie looked around at the camp, the people working the movement taking shape. "That's what this is about. That's what Thomas believed. That's what we're building." The afternoon brought more arrivals. A bus pulled up full of elderly people from nursing homes and assisted living facilities. People Blake had evicted. People who'd lost their homes and had nowhere else to go. Ghost organized them, found them chairs, got them water. They sat in Maggie's yard, telling their stories. Each one a variation on the same theme. A missed payment. A predatory loan. A developer who swooped in and took everything. "He took my farm," an old man said. "His name was Earl, 92 years old. My daddy built that farm. I raised my kids there. Blake bought the mortgage, gave me 30 days. 30 days to leave the only home I'd ever known." A woman named Dorothy spoke next. "He took my house and turned it into a parking lot. A parking lot. For his shopping center. Like my life didn't matter. Like my memories were worth less than asphalt." Story after story. Maggie listened to all of them. Each one broke her heart a little more, and each one strengthened her resolve. By evening, Ghost called everyone together. The camp, the victims, the reporters, everyone. "Tomorrow," he said, his voice carrying across the property, "we finish the repairs on this house. We make it stronger than it's ever been. We make it a symbol of what's possible when people stand together." "Friday," Marcus added, "the main force arrives. Over 1,000 Hell's Angels from across the country. They're not coming to intimidate. They're not coming to threaten. They're coming to bear witness, to show Blake and everyone like him that we don't abandon our own." "Saturday." Margaret stepped up. "We hold a rally. We invite the media. We invite politicians. We tell Thomas Chen's story. We tell Maggie's story. And we announce the Thomas Chen Foundation, a legal fund to help families fight predatory lending, to help people who can't fight for themselves." The crowd erupted. Cheers, applause, hope spreading like wildfire. Maggie stood in the middle of it all, overwhelmed. Danny appeared at her elbow. "You okay?" "I don't know, it's too much." "It's exactly enough. Mrs. Chen, Maggie, do you understand what you've done? You opened your door. That's it. That's all you did. And look what happened. I just gave you shelter. You gave us more than shelter. You gave us purpose. You reminded us why we wear these patches, why we call each other brother, why the club matters." Danny's eyes were wet. "My whole life people told me I was worthless. My dad left. My mom worked 3 jobs and barely noticed I existed. I was headed nowhere. And then I found the angels. Found people who gave a damn, who saw me, who believed I mattered." He paused, collecting himself. "And then I almost died in that storm. And you, this woman who didn't know me, who had every reason to be scared, you saved me. You fed me. You wrapped me in blankets like I was your own grandson." His voice broke. "You made me matter. You made all of us matter. That's what Thomas did for Marcus 25 years ago. That's what you did for us. That's what this foundation will do for thousands of others." Maggie couldn't speak. She pulled Danny into a hug, this young man who'd almost died on her doorstep, who'd become family in the space of a week. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for letting me matter too." Night fell. The camp settled into a rhythm. Cooking fires, quiet conversations, guitar music drifting across the property. Maggie sat on her porch, wrapped in Thomas's old coat, watching it all. Marcus joined her. "Big day. Every day's a big day now. You getting tired? Exhausted? But I can't stop." She looked at him. "If I stop, I'll realize how insane this all is. I'll panic. You'll be fine. You're stronger than you think." "I'm terrified." "Good. Means you're paying attention." He handed her a beer. "Drink. Relax. Tomorrow we work. Tonight we breathe." They sat in comfortable silence, stars coming out overhead, Montana sky going infinite above them. Marcus, yeah, what happens after? After we win, after the foundation starts, after everyone goes home. What happens to me? He thought about it. You live. You actually live instead of just surviving. You wake up without fear. You make Thomas's pancakes and remember him with joy instead of grief. You help other people. You build something that lasts. And what happens to you? I keep my promise, the one I made 25 years ago. I keep passing it on. Keep opening doors for strangers. Keep believing people are worth saving. He looked at her. Just like Thomas taught me. Just like you reminded me. A commotion at the camp entrance. Headlights. A car that didn't belong. Ghost was there immediately, along with a dozen others. Maggie and Marcus hurried over. A young man got out. Late 20s, Hispanic. Nervous. He saw the bikers froze. I'm looking for Maggie Chen. Who's asking? Ghost said. My name is Daniel Torres. My grandfather was Ricardo Martinez. Angel. Ghost's expression transformed. You're Angel's grandson. Yes, sir. I flew in from San Diego. I had to come. I had to. He looked around, saw Maggie. Mrs. Chen. Yes. He walked forward, pulled something from his jacket. A piece of paper. Old. Yellowed. Worn from decades of handling. My grandfather carried this for 40 years. In his wallet. Never went anywhere without it. When he died, my grandmother gave it to me. Said I needed to bring it here. To you. He handed it to Maggie. Her hands shook as she unfolded it. Thomas's handwriting. She'd know it anywhere. The measure of a man isn't what he takes from the world. It's what he leaves behind for those still traveling. Below it, a date, July 15th, 1985, and a signature, Thomas Chen. Maggie couldn't breathe. Your grandfather met Thomas, she whispered. Once, 40 years ago. Grandpa was young, stupid, angry at the world. Got a flat tire on the highway. Thomas stopped. Helped him fix it. They talked for hours. At the end, Thomas wrote that note, gave it to Grandpa, said, keep this. When the world gets dark, remember you're leaving something behind. Daniel's voice broke. That note changed Grandpa's life. He went back to school, became a doctor, started the Children's Hospital Fund. Every month for 20 years he donated. Anonymous. Nobody knew it was him. He wiped his eyes. And it all started because Thomas Chen stopped to help a stranger fix a flat tire. Because Thomas believed my grandfather was worth saving. Maggie clutched the note. Thomas's words, his handwriting. Proof that 40 years ago he'd changed a life and never mentioned it. Never bragged. Never sought credit. Just planted a seed and moved on. He never told me, she said. Never said a word about your grandfather. Grandpa tried to find him. Tried for years. Wanted to say thank you. Wanted to tell him what that note meant. But Thomas had disappeared. Grandpa thought maybe he'd moved away, or passed on. Daniel looked around at the camp, the bikers, the movement taking shape. And then I saw the news. Saw your story. Saw Thomas's name. I knew I had to come. Had to show you this. Had to tell you that Grandpa's legacy, everything he built, everyone he helped, it all traces back to one conversation with your husband. The camp had gone silent, everyone listening, everyone understanding. Ghost spoke first. Angel never told us about the note, never mentioned Thomas by name. He just told us about the mechanic who changed his life. We thought it was a story, a parable. It was real, Daniel said, all of it. And when Grandpa was dying, his last words were about Thomas. He said, find the mechanic's family. Make sure they know. Make sure they understand what he built. He looked at Maggie. You're what he built. This, he gestured at the camp. This is what he built. And it's still growing. Still spreading. Still changing lives. Maggie folded the note carefully, pressed it to her heart. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for bringing this. For telling me. For... She couldn't finish. Daniel stepped forward, pulled her into a hug. This stranger who wasn't a stranger. This connection across 4 decades coming home. Grandpa wanted you to have the note. Said it belongs with Thomas's family. Said you'd know what to do with it. I do know, Maggie said. She turned to face the camp, to face everyone watching. This is why we're building the foundation. This is why we're fighting, not just for houses, not just for justice, for this. She held up the note. For the chance to change someone's life, for the chance to leave something behind, for the chance to be the person someone else remembers 40 years later. Marcus put his arm around her shoulders. Ghost stood on her other side. Daniel stayed close. And around them, 1,000 small moments of kindness began multiplying, connecting, building toward something none of them could have imagined. Thomas Chen had thrown a stone into a pond 40 years ago. The ripples were still spreading, and they were about to become a tidal wave. Friday morning came with the rumble of 1,000 engines. Maggie stood on her porch at dawn coffee, forgotten in her hand, watching the horizon fill with headlights. Not dozens this time, not hundreds. A river of chrome and leather flowing toward her property like a force of nature. Marcus appeared beside her. They're early. How many? Final count 1,200. Maybe more. Chapters from all 50 states. Some rode straight through, didn't stop except for gas. 1,200 people. For me. For Thomas. For what he started. For what you're finishing. The first wave reached her driveway. They parked in formation precise as soldiers. Men and women dismounted, stretched, looked toward the house. Toward her. Ghost was already directing traffic, organizing the chaos into order. Tents going up, supply stations, medical tent, command center. It looked like a military operation because that's exactly what it was. A woman approached the porch. Late 40s leather cut covered in patches, gray streak in her dark hair. Mrs. Chen, I'm Sarah Kim, Seattle chapter. My father was helped by someone your husband helped 30 years ago. Second-generation kindness. I'm here to pay it forward. Thank you for coming. Thank you for starting this. Sarah looked around. You know what this is. This is history. This is the biggest mobilization the Angels have ever done for something that isn't club business. We're here because your husband taught us that strangers matter, that everyone deserves help. More people came, one by one, each with a story, each with a connection to Thomas that spread like roots through decades. Thomas fixed my uncle's bike in 1987. Uncle John. He's dead now, but he told me about the mechanic who wouldn't take payment, said to pass it on. My grandmother was helped by someone Thomas helped. She's 94, wanted to come but couldn't travel. Sent me instead. I'm third generation. My grandfather, my father, now me. All of us connected back to one conversation Thomas had in 1983. The web kept expanding, each thread leading back to Thomas. To one man who'd lived his entire life helping strangers and never told anyone. By 8 a.m., the property was full. By 9, people were parking on the road, walking in. By 10, the sheriff's department had to set up traffic control. Frank Cooper found Maggie in the chaos. Maggie, I need to talk to you. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. That's the problem. Or not a problem, but... He took off his hat, ran his hand through his hair. I've got calls coming in. County commissioner, state police. Hell, the governor's office called. Everyone wants to know what's happening. If it's safe, if we're a threat. Marcus finished appearing behind Maggie. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Marcus pulled out his phone. Sheriff, I've got signed agreements from every chapter. Code of conduct. 0 tolerance for violence. Drugs or illegal activity. We're here peacefully. We're leaving peacefully. And in between, we're building something good. Frank looked at the phone, then at the organized camp, then at Maggie. "You've got until Sunday. After that, I need you to start thinning out. Not because I want to, but because I've got to answer to people." "Understood," Marcus said. "We'll be gone by Monday." Frank left. Maggie turned to Marcus. "Monday? But the rally's tomorrow. What happens after?" "After we start the real work, the foundation, the legal battles, the long fight." He looked at her. "Today and tomorrow are the show. The statement, the proof that people care. Monday starts the actual war." Margaret appeared, laptop under her arm, phone pressed to her ear. "Yes, I understand. No, we're not backing down, because it's the right thing to do." She hung up. "That was the State Attorney General's office. They're opening a formal investigation into Blake's business practices, using Patricia's evidence." "That's good, right? It's very good, but Maggie—" Margaret's expression shifted. "Blake knows. He knows what's coming. And cornered animals do desperate things." "What kind of desperate things?" "I don't know yet. But we need to be ready." The answer came an hour later. A news van pulled up, not local national, CNN. The reporter who stepped out was someone Maggie recognized from television. Amanda Chen. No relation to either her or Margaret, despite the name. "Mrs. Chen, I'm here because we've received some concerning information about this gathering." "What kind of information?" Amanda hesitated. "May we speak privately?" They went inside. Marcus Ghost. Margaret joined them. Amanda set up a recording device. "This morning our network received an anonymous tip, video footage, allegedly from this property." She pulled out a tablet, pressed play. The video was grainy shot from distance. It showed bikers, angry voices, someone throwing a punch, a fight breaking out. "That's not from here," Marcus said immediately. "Are you certain?" "Positive. That's not our camp, not our people." Amanda froze. The video zoomed in on a patch. Hell's Angels colors. Clear as day. "Then how do you explain this?" Margaret leaned closer. "When was this supposedly filmed?" "According to the timestamp, yesterday afternoon." "Impossible." Ghost pulled out his phone. "We had security cameras installed Tuesday. Every inch of this property is recorded. If that happened here, we'd have footage." "May I see your footage?" "Absolutely." They spent 20 minutes reviewing Ghost's security feeds. Same time frame as the anonymous video. No fight, no violence, just people working, talking, organizing. Margaret's eyes narrowed. "This is a setup. Someone staged that video, used actors in Angels' colors, timed it to coincide with your arrival. The question is who?" "Blake," Maggie said. "It has to be Blake." "Almost certainly. He's trying to discredit you, make it look like this gathering is dangerous, violent." Amanda checked her phone. "And it's working. The video's already on social media, going viral. People are calling for the camp to be shut down." "Can you air the truth?" Marcus asked. "Show your viewers the real footage." "I can, I will. But Maggie—" Amanda looked at her seriously. "This is just the beginning. If Blake's desperate enough to fabricate evidence, he's desperate enough to do worse. You need to be careful." "I'm surrounded by 1,200 bikers. How much more careful can I get?" "It's not your physical safety I'm worried about. It's your reputation, your credibility. If Blake destroys that, he destroys everything you're building." After Amanda left, promising to air the truth, Maggie sat down hard. "He's not going to stop." "No," Margaret agreed. "He's not. But neither are we. And Maggie, here's what Blake doesn't understand. He made this about more than just your house. He made it about justice, about standing up to bullies, about protecting the vulnerable. That's a fight people will get behind. That's a fight we can win." Danny burst through the door, breathless. "Mrs. Chen, you need to see this. Now." and they followed him outside. A crowd had gathered near the road. Not bikers, regular people, families, elderly couples, and they were setting up their own tents. "What's happening?" Maggie asked. A woman stepped forward, middle-aged, wearing a cardigan, glasses on a chain around her neck. "Mrs. Chen, I'm Jennifer Walsh, Howard's daughter. Blake took my father's farm 3 years ago. When I saw your story, I knew I had to come. I knew I had to stand with you." "But you're not a biker." "No, I'm a librarian. And I brought my book club." She gestured at a group of women setting up camp chairs. "And they brought their families. And word spread, we're here because what's happening to you happened to my father. And if we stand together, maybe it stops happening." More people came forward. A teacher, a nurse, a retired veteran, a young mother with 3 kids. All of them victims of Blake or developers like him. All of them here to stand witness. "How many?" Ghost asked quietly. Danny checked his phone. "Social media says over 300 civilians have arrived or are on their way. They're calling it the Thomas Chen rally. People are driving from 6 states. Marcus looked at Maggie. "You're not just a symbol anymore. You're a movement." "I don't know how to lead a movement." "You don't have to lead it. You just have to be yourself. Tell your story. Tell Thomas's story. The movement will lead itself." By noon, the property couldn't hold everyone. The crowd spilled onto adjacent fields with permission from neighbors who'd offered their land. Someone had brought a portable stage, sound equipment, volunteers organized food distribution, water stations, first aid. Ghost stood on the stage testing the microphone. "Check, check. Everyone hear me." A roar of affirmation. "Good. Welcome, all of you. From the brothers who rode 1,000 miles to the families who drove from neighboring states to the people of Henderson who opened their homes, welcome." Applause rolled across the crowd like thunder. "Tomorrow we rally. Tomorrow we speak. Tomorrow we tell the world what Thomas Chen built and what we're building in his name. But today..." He gestured at the house behind him, at the fresh paint, the new roof, the restored barn. "Today we finish what we started. Today we make this house a fortress, a symbol. Proof that when people stand together, they're unstoppable." Work crews mobilized. The house was already solid, but they made it impregnable. Reinforced doors, security system, cameras. Everything documented, everything legal, everything designed to say, "You can't take this. Not now, not ever." Maggie walked through her transformed home, touching new walls, new fixtures, new everything. Marcus followed. "It's too much," she said. "It's exactly right. Thomas wouldn't have wanted. Thomas would have been out there working harder than anyone. You know that." She did know that. Thomas with his tools, his jokes, his endless willingness to help. He'd have loved this. Would have been in the middle of it, directing traffic, fixing things, making sure everyone had what they needed. "I miss him," she said. "Every day I miss him. But especially now. I wish he could see this." "He can. Wherever he is, he can. And Maggie..." Marcus's voice was gentle. "He's not just seeing it. He's in it. Every person here is carrying a piece of Thomas. His kindness, his belief that people matter, his refusal to give up on anyone." A shout from outside. Not alarm excitement. They hurried out to find a limousine pulling up. Black. Government plates. The door opened. A woman stepped out. 60-something, silver hair, sharp suit. She looked around at the crowd, the camp, the organized chaos, and smiled. "Mrs. Chen." "Yes. I'm Senator Barbara Morrison, Montana State Senate. I'm here because I've been watching your story, because my mother was almost a victim of predatory lending 10 years ago, and because I want to help. Help how? By introducing legislation, by making what Blake did illegal, by creating protections for elderly homeowners so this can't happen to anyone else. She looked around. But I need your help. I need your story, your voice, and I need you to come to the state capitol next week and testify. Testify in front of the banking committee. Tell them what happened. Let them see what one person's courage can build. Senator Morrison stepped closer. Mrs. Chen, you've started something. Let's finish it. Let's make it law. Maggie looked at Marcus, at Ghost, at Margaret, all of them nodding. Okay, she said. I'll testify. Excellent. I'll have my staff coordinate details. The senator handed her a card. One more thing. The governor wants to meet you. Tomorrow after the rally, if you're willing. The governor, your national news Mrs. Chen. You've embarrassed a lot of powerful people by showing how broken the system is, and some of those powerful people want to fix it, starting with Governor Williams. After the senator left, Maggie sat on her porch steps, overwhelmed. Patricia appeared bringing water. You okay? I don't know. A week ago I was nobody. Now senators are visiting. Governors want meetings. How did this happen? You opened your door. Patricia sat beside her. That's how it started. Everything else, the rally, the foundation, the legislation, that's just the door opening wider, letting more people in. What if I mess it up? What if I say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing? Then you'll fix it. That's what people do. They make mistakes and they fix them. Patricia paused. Mrs. Chen, I spent months calling you, threatening you, making your life hell, and you forgave me. You let me help. If you can do that, you can do anything. Evening brought another surprise. A bus pulled up. Private coach. The door opened and elderly people began filing out. Dozens of them, all wearing matching t-shirts. Thomas Chen Legacy Tour, the shirts read. An old woman approached Walker, tapping against the ground. Mrs. Chen, I'm Dorothy Martinez. Harrison Blake took my house 5 years ago, turned it into a parking lot. When I saw your story, I called everyone I knew who'd been victimized. We organized, rented a bus, drove here from Colorado. She looked around at the others. We're the faces Blake thought nobody would remember. The victims he thought he could bury. We're here to prove him wrong. Maggie's throat closed. All of you, you came all this way. We came because you gave us hope. Because you showed us we're not alone. Because you're fighting a battle we all lost. Dorothy's eyes filled. Let us stand with you. Let our faces be seen. Let Blake and everyone like him know we're still here, still fighting. By nightfall, the count was final. 1,200 Hell's Angels, 300 civilians, 47 victims of Blake's schemes, 56 journalists, 23 politicians, and one 68-year-old widow who'd started it all by opening a door. The camp settled into evening rhythm, cooking fires, music, stories being shared across generations and demographics. Bikers teaching kids about engines. Elderly victims sharing their stories with reporters. Families finding community with people they'd never met. Ghost called a meeting. Leaders from every chapter. Margaret, Patricia, Senator Morrison, Daniel Torres. All of them gathered in Maggie's kitchen. Tomorrow's critical, Ghost said. We've got national media coverage. We've got political attention. We've got the whole country watching. We need to get the message right. The message is simple, Margaret said. One woman's courage inspired a nation. One man's legacy continues to change lives. And together we're building a system where predatory lending can't survive. Who speaks? Someone asked. Everyone looked at Maggie. I can't do a speech. I don't have the words. You don't need fancy words, Marcus said. You just need truth. Tell them about Thomas, about the door, about what he believed. The words will come. What if they don't? Then we'll be there, all of us. You're not speaking alone. They planned into the night. Order of speakers, logistics, security. Every detail mapped out. By midnight, the plan was solid. By 1 a.m., Maggie lay in bed staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Tomorrow she'd stand in front of thousands of people and try to explain why opening a door to strangers mattered, why Thomas's kindness 40 years ago was still changing lives, why love was stronger than fear. She thought about the note Daniel had brought, Thomas's handwriting, his words about leaving something behind. She'd spent 10 years thinking Thomas left her alone, but he hadn't. He'd left her an army. He'd left her a legacy. He'd left her the tools to change the world. She just had to be brave enough to use them. A soft knock on her door. Maggie, you awake? Marcus's voice. She got up, opened the door. He looked tired but wired. Can't sleep either, she asked. Nope, wanted to check on you. I'm terrified. Good. Means you understand what we're doing. He leaned against the doorframe. Maggie, tomorrow changes everything. Win or lose after tomorrow, you can't go back to being invisible. Can't hide. Can't pretend you're just a widow in Montana. You're a voice now. A symbol. That's permanent. I don't want to be a symbol. Nobody does. But here we are. He smiled. Thomas didn't want to be a legend. He just wanted to fix bikes and help people. But legends aren't made by wanting them. They're made by doing what's right when nobody's watching. And then eventually people start watching. What if I let everyone down? You won't. Because you're not performing. You're not pretending. You're just being Maggie Chen, woman who opened her door, woman who loved Thomas, woman who chose kindness over fear. He straightened. That's enough. That's always been enough. He left. Maggie closed the door, leaned against it. Tomorrow, thousands of people. National news. The governor. All of them watching. All of them waiting to see if Thomas's widow could carry his message forward. She walked to her window, looked out at the camp. Tents glowing with lantern light. People still awake, talking, planning, hoping. All of them here because Thomas stopped to help a stranger 40 years ago. All of them here because Maggie opened a door last week. All of them here because love always wins. Eventually. She just had to believe it. Just had to stand up tomorrow and tell the truth. And trust that Thomas's legacy, Thomas's garden, was strong enough to bloom. Saturday morning. Rally day. The moment everything had been building toward. Maggie woke to voices. Thousands of them. She looked out her window and saw the crowd had doubled overnight. People streaming in, setting up chairs, holding signs. Justice for Maggie. Thomas Chen's legacy lives. Love wins. She dressed carefully. Not fancy, just clean jeans. Thomas's old flannel shirt, the one that still smelled like him. If she was going to speak his truth, she'd do it wearing his clothes. Marcus was already outside organizing with military precision. He saw her crossed over. Ready? No, but I'm doing it anyway. That's my girl. He handed her a microphone pack. You're up third. Ghost opens Senator Morrison speaks, then you. Keep it short. Keep it true. The rest handles itself. What do I say? Whatever Thomas would say. You'll know it when the time comes. The stage was full. Ghost at the microphone, looking out at thousands of faces. Brothers, sisters, friends, we're here because one man believed kindness mattered, because one woman carried that belief forward, and because together we're proving they were right. Applause. Deafening. Thomas Chen never sought recognition, never wanted fame. He just wanted to help, fixed bikes, fed strangers, believed everyone deserved a second chance. Ghost's voice broke. 25 years ago, he saved my brother Marcus, gave him hope when he had none, started a chain reaction that brought 1,200 of us here today. And that's just the angels. That's just the people wearing these colors. He gestured at the crowd. The real number, the real count of lives Thomas touched. We'll never know, because kindness doesn't announce itself. It just spreads. Quiet, persistent, unstoppable. More applause. Ghost stepped back. Senator Morrison took the microphone. I'm here as a legislator, as someone with power to change laws. But I'm also here as a daughter. My mother was almost a victim of the same predatory lending that targeted Mrs. Chen. Almost lost her home. Almost lost everything. The senator's voice hardened. I've introduced legislation, the Thomas Chen Protection Act. It will regulate mortgage sales, require notification, create oversight, and prosecute developers who prey on the elderly. She looked directly at the cameras. This isn't just about Maggie Chen anymore. This is about every family, every person, everyone who thought the system was too big to fight. You're not alone. We're fighting with you, and we're going to win. Standing ovation, lasting minutes. Finally, Morrison stepped back. Marcus took the microphone. Mrs. Maggie Chen. The roar was incredible. Maggie walked to the microphone on shaking legs, looked out at thousands of faces, at cameras, at her future unfolding in real time. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Panic seized her. She couldn't do this. Couldn't speak. Couldn't. Then she saw them. Front row. Danny. Brick. Preacher. The original 20 who'd knocked on her door. The strangers who'd become family. And she knew exactly what to say. My husband Thomas died 10 years ago. He was stubborn, messy, left his tools everywhere. But he believed in something simple. Her voice steadied. He believed strangers were just family you hadn't fed yet. Laughter. Warm. Encouraging. A week ago, 20 men knocked on my door. Freezing. Dying. Hell's angels. Everything I'd been taught to fear. I had every reason to keep that door locked. She paused. But Thomas taught me fear makes you smaller. Love makes you bigger. So, I opened it. The crowd was absolutely silent now. I didn't know one of them was Marcus. Didn't know Thomas had saved his life 25 years ago. Didn't know that opening my door would bring an army, would start a foundation, would turn my small act into something bigger than I could imagine. She looked at the note in her hand, the one Daniel had brought. Thomas's words. Thomas wrote something 40 years ago. He gave it to a young man named Ricardo Martinez. Angel. He wrote, "The measure of a man isn't what he takes from the world. It's what he leaves behind for those still traveling." Her voice broke, but she pushed through. Thomas left behind a house, tools, memories, but more than that, he left behind a belief that people matter, that everyone deserves kindness, that strangers are worth saving. And now, she gestured at the crowd, now all of you are leaving that same thing behind, for your children, your communities, for people you'll never meet. Tears streamed down her face. Blake tried to take my house. But he can't take this. Can't take what Thomas built. Can't take what we're building together. Because love doesn't end when we die. It just multiplies, spreads, becomes something bigger than any one person. She looked directly at the cameras. So to everyone watching, everyone facing foreclosure, everyone being bullied, everyone who thinks they're alone, you're not. We're here. We're fighting. And we're not stopping until the system changes, until predatory lending ends, until kindness wins. She stepped back. For a moment, silence. Then the roar began. Not applause, something deeper. A sound of recognition, of connection, of thousands of voices saying, yes, this, we believe. Marcus pulled her into a hug. You did it. Did I say the right things? You said Thomas's things. That's all that mattered. The rally continued. More speakers. More stories. But Maggie barely heard them. She stood backstage, shaking, realizing what she'd just done. She'd just declared war on a system, on corruption, on bullies everywhere. And she'd done it in Thomas's flannel shirt, with his words in her hand, speaking his truth. Margaret found her. The governor's here, wants to meet. Now, right now. Governor James Williams was younger than Maggie expected. Mid-50s. Kind eyes. He shook her hand firmly. Mrs. Chen, that was remarkable. Thank you, Governor. I'm here to make you an offer. I want you to lead a task force. Investigate predatory lending across Montana. Report directly to my office. We'll give you resources, legal support, whatever you need. Maggie stared at him. I'm not qualified for that. You're the most qualified person in this state. You've lived it, survived it, and now you're changing it. He smiled. Think about it. You don't have to decide today. But Mrs. Chen, we need you. Montana needs you. After he left, Maggie sat down hard. Patricia brought water. You're about to have more job offers than you can count. I don't want job offers. I want my quiet life back. Too late for that. You're famous now. Might as well use it for good. The rally wound down. People started leaving. Not all at once, they lingered talking, connecting, building something that would outlast the day. By evening, the numbers had dropped by half. By midnight, most of the civilians had gone home. The Hells Angels remained many, staying through Sunday, to help pack up, clean up, leave the property better than they'd found it. Marcus sat with Maggie on her porch, the same spot they'd sat a week ago when everything started. It's really over, she said. It's really beginning. What do I do now? You live, you build the foundation, you testify, you lead that task force if you want. You wake up every morning and choose kindness over fear. Like Thomas. And they sat in silence, the camp settling down. Stars coming out, Montana sky infinite above them. Marcus, yeah, thank you for everything, for keeping your promise, for bringing the army, for, her voice caught, for making me remember that I matter. He took her hand. Maggie, you always mattered. You just forgot for a while. We reminded you. That's what family does. Is that what we are, family? That's exactly what we are, forever. The last night in camp, the last night before everything changed permanently. The last night Maggie Chen could pretend to be just a widow. Tomorrow she'd be a voice, a leader, a symbol. But tonight, she was just herself. Sitting on her porch, holding Thomas's memory close. Surrounded by family she'd made by opening a door. And somewhere in heaven, Thomas was probably laughing. Probably shaking his head. Probably saying what he always said when Maggie worried too much. You'll be fine, Ellie. Just keep opening doors. The rest takes care of itself. She would. She'd keep opening doors, keep letting strangers in, keep building Thomas's legacy, because love always wins. Eventually, and forever starts with one door, One choice, one moment of courage. Maggie Chen had found hers, and she was never closing it again. Sunday morning broke quiet. The camp was half its size, bikers rolling out in waves, engines rumbling goodbyes. But they didn't leave empty-handed. Each one carried something, a story, a connection, a renewed belief that kindness mattered. Maggie stood in her yard, hugging strangers who weren't strangers anymore. Danny cried when he said goodbye. "I'll visit, every month, I promise." "You better. I'll make pancakes." Brick was next, this giant of a man who'd held a dying kid to keep him warm. "Mrs. Chen, you changed my life. I gave you shelter for one night. You gave me purpose, reminded me why I teach, why I help kids." He wiped his eyes. "I'm going back to Oakland and starting a reading program in your husband's name. Thomas Chen Literacy Project, if that's okay." Thomas would love that. One by one, they left. By noon, only Marcus Ghost and a core group of 20 remained. The original 20 who'd knocked on her door. They'd stayed to help pack up to restore the property to make sure Maggie wasn't alone. "You don't have to stay," she told Marcus. "We're staying through tomorrow, making sure everything's secure, making sure Blake doesn't try anything stupid." "You think he will?" "He's been quiet. That worries me more than noise." Margaret arrived, mid-afternoon, laptop, out, phone ringing constantly. "Maggie, we need to talk." They sat at the kitchen table, the same table where Marcus had heard about Thomas, where everything had started unraveling and reweaving into something new. "The FBI wants to interview you. Tomorrow. They're building a case against Blake. Need your statement." "What do I tell them?" "Everything. The calls, the threats, the pressure. Patricia's evidence gives them the framework, but your testimony gives them the victim, the face, the reason to prosecute." "How long will that take?" "Couple hours, but Maggie—" Margaret closed her laptop. "After that, things get complicated. Blake's lawyers will fight. They'll try to discredit you, drag your name through mud, make you wish you'd never opened that door. Let them try. That's the spirit. But I need you to understand what you're signing up for. This isn't just about your house anymore. You're the face of a movement. That comes with a target on your back." "I'm 68 years old. What are they going to do? Scare me to death? I've buried my husband, faced foreclosure, opened my door to hell's angels in a blizzard. I'm not afraid of lawyers." Margaret smiled. "Thomas chose well." "What? When he married you? He chose well." And after Margaret left, Maggie walked through her house, really looked at it for the first time since the chaos began. New roof, new windows, fresh paint. Everything solid, secure, permanent. But it felt empty. Too quiet after a week of voices and life and constant motion. She found Marcus in Thomas's workshop. He was organizing tools, putting everything in its place. "You don't have to do that." "I know, but it feels right, taking care of his space, honoring what he built." Maggie picked up a wrench. Thomas's hands had held this, fixed 1,000 things with it. "Marcus, what happens when you leave, when everyone's gone and it's just me again?" "You won't be alone. We've set up a rotation, different chapters checking in, weekly calls, monthly visits. You're family now. We don't abandon family." "But it won't be the same." "No, it'll be different, quieter. But different isn't bad." He set down a hammer. "Maggie, you've spent 10 years being small, being invisible. Now you're visible. That's permanent. You can't unsee what you've seen. Can't unknow what you know. Can't unfeel what you've felt." "I don't want to go back to being alone." "Then don't. Use the foundation. Build the network. Help other people. Fill the space with purpose instead of grief." She knew he was right, but knowing and feeling were different things. Ghost called them outside. We've got movement. A car coming up the driveway. Not Blake's. Something government. Official plates. 2 men stepped out. Suits, FBI badges. Mrs. Chen, Special Agent Rodriguez. This is Agent Kim. We're here about Harrison Blake. I thought the interview was tomorrow. It was. But we've had a development. Blake's missing. The words hung in the air like smoke. Missing how? Marcus asked. He didn't show up for a scheduled meeting with his lawyers this morning. Hasn't been seen since yesterday afternoon. His phone's off. His car's at his office, but he's not. Rodriguez looked around at the bikers. We need to know if he's contacted you, threatened you, anything. Nothing. We haven't heard from him since the courthouse. He's running, Margaret said, appearing from inside. He knows what's coming. He's trying to disappear before the indictments land. That's our working theory, Agent Kim confirmed. But we need to verify his whereabouts. Mrs. Chen, I'm going to station 2 agents here, just as a precaution. You think he'd come here? I think desperate men do desperate things, and Blake's very desperate. They set up in an unmarked car at the end of the driveway. Marcus doubled the security watch. The remaining bikers took shifts walking the perimeter, watching for anything unusual. Night fell. Maggie couldn't sleep. She sat in her living room, lights off, watching shadows. A sound. Soft. Outside. She went to the window. Saw nothing. But the sound came again. Scratching. At the back door. She grabbed her phone, started to dial Marcus, then stopped. What if it was nothing? What if she was jumping at shadows? She walked to the back door slowly, looked through the window. A man stood there. Not Blake. Younger. Scared. He saw her, raised his hands. Please, I need help. My car broke down. I'm freezing. Every instinct screamed trap, but she'd spent a week learning that strangers weren't always danger. She opened the door. The young man stumbled in, shaking. Thank you. God, thank you. I've been walking for an hour. Thought I was going to die out there. What's your name? Jake. Jake Morrison. I was driving to Billings. Car just died. Phone's dead. I saw your lights. Something felt wrong. His clothes were too clean for someone who'd been walking in snow. His shoes weren't wet. Jake, where exactly did your car break down? About a mile back, on the main road. The main road is 2 miles away, not 1. He blinked. Calculation in his eyes. I meant 2. I'm just cold. Confused. Maggie stepped back, reached for her phone. Jake moved faster. Grabbed her wrist. Don't. Marcus appeared in the doorway. Let her go. Jake spun, pulling something from his jacket. A knife. Not big, but enough. Nobody moves. Nobody calls anyone. I'm just here to talk. Talk about what? Marcus's voice was calm, but his body was coiled ready. Blake sent you, Maggie said. Blake's gone. Ran like the coward he is. Left people like me holding the bag. I worked for him. Did his dirty work. Now the FBI's looking for me too. Jake's hand shook. I need money. Enough to disappear. Blake said you had it. Said the bikers brought cash. We're not giving you money. Then I'll take it. And if anyone tries to stop me, the old lady gets hurt. Ghost materialized behind Jake. Silent as his name. Drop the knife. Jake whirled. The knife arced through the air. Ghost caught his wrist, twisted. The knife clattered to the floor. 3 seconds, and Jake was face down, Ghost's knee in his back. FBI's 30 seconds away, Ghost said calmly. Want to tell them why you're here? Jake started crying. I didn't want to hurt anyone. I just need to get away. Blake promised us money, protection. Then he vanished and left us with nothing. Rodriguez and Kim burst through the door, weapons drawn. They took Jake into custody. Maggie stood shaking Marcus's arm around her shoulders. You okay? I opened the door, again. Even after everything, I opened the door. Because that's who you are. That's what Thomas taught you. Can't let one bad apple poison the whole tree. But what if? No what ifs. You're safe. Jake's arrested. Blake's network is crumbling. You won, again. Rodriguez came back inside. Mrs. Chen, that was brave and stupid, but mostly brave. Jake's talking, giving us names, locations, everything. This breaks Blake's entire operation. Where is Blake? We'll find him. Men like that always surface. They can't help themselves. But they didn't find Blake that night, or the next morning. By Monday, when most of the bikers left, Blake was still in the wind. Maggie went to the FBI office, gave her statement. 3 hours of questions, recordings, documentation. She told them everything. Every call from Patricia. Every threat from Blake. Every moment of fear. Your testimony is crucial, Rodriguez said. When we find Blake, this puts him away for decades. If you find him, we will. Trust me. But Maggie wasn't sure she trusted anyone anymore, except the family she'd made. Tuesday brought more news. The Thomas Chen Foundation was officially incorporated. Margaret had handled the paperwork. The GoFundMe had reached $800,000. Donations still pouring in. We can help 30 families right away, Margaret explained. Pay off predatory mortgages. Provide legal representation. Create a safety net. 30 families. That's just the start. This grows will help hundreds, maybe thousands. All because of you. Because of Thomas. Wednesday, Senator Morrison called. The Thomas Chen Protection Act passed committee. Goes to the full Senate next week. Maggie, we're going to win this. We're going to change the law. Thursday. Patricia brought the first family to Maggie's house. The Johnsons. Elderly couple from Billings. Facing foreclosure. Terrified. Mrs. Chen helped us, Patricia said. Now we help you. The foundation's paying off your mortgage. You keep your house. Mrs. Johnson collapsed, crying. Her husband just stared, unable to process kindness after months of cruelty. Why? He finally asked. Why would you help us? Because someone helped me. And before that, someone helped him. That's how it works. We pass it on. Friday morning, 1 week after the rally, Maggie's phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, Mrs. Chen. Blake's voice. Rough, exhausted. I need to talk to you. Her blood went cold. Where are you? Doesn't matter, I'm done. Finished. The FBI's closing in. My lawyers abandoned me. Everything's gone. Good. You destroyed me. One old woman destroyed everything I built. You destroyed yourself. I just refused to be another victim. Silence. Then, I'm sorry. What? I'm sorry for what I did to you. To all of them. I convinced myself it was just business. Just transactions. I forgot they were people. His voice broke. My mother's your age, lives in Florida. If someone did to her what I did to you, then turn yourself in. Face what you've done. Help us fix the system you broke. If I do that, I go to prison for years. Yes, you do. But you'll go knowing you did the right thing at the end. That counts for something. More silence. Thomas Chen, your husband. I looked him up, read about him. He really helped all those people, every single one. And never asked for anything back. Never. Blake laughed bitterly. I spent my whole life taking, he spent his giving. And in the end, his wife wins. His legacy wins, while I'm hiding in a motel waiting for the FBI to find me. It's not too late to change, to be different. Yeah, it is. But Mrs. Chen, thank you. For what? For showing me what I could have been, if I'd made different choices. The line went dead. 3 hours later, Blake turned himself in to the FBI field office in Seattle. Gave them everything. Names, accounts, victims, evidence. A full confession. Rodriguez called Maggie personally. "I don't know what you said to him, but it worked. He's cooperating completely. This is the biggest predatory lending bust in Montana history. Maybe national history." "Will he go to prison?" "For a long time. But his cooperation means shorter sentence. And more importantly, it means we can help all his victims, reverse the foreclosures, return the properties, undo the damage. How many victims? 47 in Montana alone. Another 100 across 6 states. You just saved 100 families, Mrs. Chen, by convincing one man to do the right thing." After she hung up, Maggie sat on her porch. The same porch where she'd stood a week and a half ago, watching 20 frozen men collapse in her yard. Marcus pulled up on his motorcycle. He'd left Monday but promised to visit weekly, keeping his word already. "Heard about Blake. He surrendered. Because of you. Because he had a moment of clarity. That's all. One moment where he saw himself clearly and didn't like what he saw." Marcus sat beside her. Thomas would be proud. Would he? Absolutely. You took everything he taught you, kindness, courage, believing in second chances, and you built something that's going to outlive both of you. That's not just legacy, that's immortality. They sat in comfortable silence. "What happens now?" Maggie asked. "Now you live. Help families through the foundation. Lead that task force for the governor. Testify when the legislation comes up. Visit schools and talk about Thomas. Whatever you want." "What if I just want to be quiet again?" "Then be quiet." "But Maggie..." He looked at her seriously. "You can't unknow what you know. Can't unfeel what you've felt. You've seen what one person can do. What one door can open. You'll never be able to ignore someone in need again. Thomas cursed you with compassion. It's permanent." She laughed. Actually laughed. Cursed with compassion. Thomas would love that phrase. He probably invented it. 2 months later, the Thomas Chen Protection Act became law. Maggie stood in the state capitol surrounded by Hell's Angels and victims and families as the governor signed it. This law protects vulnerable homeowners from predatory lending practices, requires transparency, creates oversight, and establishes penalties for those who prey on the elderly. Governor Williams looked at Maggie. This exists because one woman refused to be a victim, because she opened her door, because she fought back. Thank you, Maggie Chen. The room erupted, but Maggie barely heard it. She was thinking about Thomas, about the note he'd written 40 years ago, about the ripples spreading across decades. 4 months later, the foundation helped its 50th family, then its 100th, then more than they could count. 6 months later, Marcus called. "Turn on the news." She did. National broadcast. In a landmark case, Harrison Blake was sentenced today to 12 years in federal prison for conspiracy fraud and predatory lending practices spanning 7 states. The case, brought by FBI investigators and state attorneys general, stemmed from a complaint filed by Montana widow Maggie Chen, whose story captured national attention last winter. The anchor continued. The Thomas Chen Foundation, named for Mrs. Chen's late husband, has now helped over 300 families facing similar situations. What started as one woman opening her door to strangers in a storm has become a nationwide movement against predatory lending. More at 11. Maggie turned off the TV, sat in her quiet house. The house that almost wasn't hers. The house that had become a symbol. The house where Thomas's legacy lived. Her phone rang constantly now. Interview requests. Families needing help. Chapters checking in. She'd hired Patricia to manage it all, to be her right hand in building what Thomas had started. But tonight, she ignored the phone. Tonight was just for her and Thomas. She walked to his workshop, the memorial garage. It was clean, organized, perfect, and completely empty because nobody worked there. That needed to change. She pulled out Thomas's tools, started a project. Nothing complicated, just fixing an old chair that had a wobbly leg, using Thomas's hands through her own. Danny found her there an hour later. He'd driven up from Oakland, keeping his promise to visit monthly. "Mrs. Chen, what you doing?" "Fixing things, like Thomas used to." "Need help, always?" They worked together. Danny handed her tools, asked questions, learned, just like Thomas used to teach anyone who wandered into his space. "You know what this is?" Maggie asked. "What?" "This is the workshop opening again. This is Thomas's space being used for what he intended, helping people, teaching, building." "You're going to start fixing bikes?" "Maybe. Or maybe I'll teach kids how to fix things, how to use tools, how to help strangers, how to open doors." She set down the hammer. Thomas's legacy isn't just the foundation. It's not just the law. It's this: passing on skills, knowledge, kindness, one person at a time. Danny smiled. "I'll spread the word. I bet kids would love learning here." "Then let's do it. Thomas Chen Memorial Garage, where strangers become family." A year after that frozen night when 20 men knocked on her door, Maggie stood in her yard. It was full again. Not with 1,000 bikers this time. With kids. Teenagers from town, learning about engines, about tools, about helping others. Marcus was there teaching a group about motorcycle maintenance. Brick was reading to younger kids under a tree. Danny was showing a girl how to change a tire. Patricia was coordinating with families who needed help. And in the middle of it all stood Maggie Chen, 69 years old now, no longer invisible, no longer alone, no longer just surviving, living. Thomas's workshop hummed with activity, his tools used daily, his spirit alive in every lesson, every fixed engine, every stranger helped. That evening, after everyone left, Maggie sat on her porch. Marcus joined her. "You did it." "Did what?" "Built something permanent, something that will outlive all of us." "Thomas built it. I just carried it forward." "Same thing." They sat watching the sunset. Montana sky painted in colors Thomas had loved. "Marcus, yeah, thank you. For keeping your promise. For bringing the army. For reminding me who I was. Thank you for opening the door. For showing us who we could be." The sky darkened. Stars emerged. The same stars that had been there 40 years ago when Thomas made his promise to a young man. The same stars that would be there 40 years from now when kids taught by Maggie's program opened their own doors to strangers. Maggie pulled out the note, the one Daniel had brought, Thomas's handwriting. The measure of a man isn't what he takes from the world. It's what he leaves behind for those still traveling. She'd spent a year learning what Thomas left behind. Not just a house, not just tools, not just memories. He left behind a way of seeing the world, where strangers mattered, where everyone deserved help, where fear was a choice and love was an action. He left behind the belief that one person could change everything. One door, one moment, one choice to be brave when being safe was easier. And Maggie Chen, widow warrior woman who opened her door, had proven him right. The foundation would grow. The law would help thousands. The kids learning in Thomas's workshop would grow up and open their own doors. The ripples would spread across decades, across generations, across a country desperate for proof that goodness still existed. All because 40 years ago, a mechanic stopped to help a stranger. All because 25 years ago, that stranger never forgot. All because 10 days ago, a widow chose courage over fear. Maggie stood, stretched, looked at her house, solid, secure, permanent, a fortress of kindness, a monument to love, a doorway that would never close. "Come on," she said to Marcus. "I'll make pancakes, Thomas's recipe. Best offer I've had all day." They walked inside together. Two strangers who'd become family. Two people carrying a legacy forward. Two lives changed by one man's belief that everyone deserved a second chance. Behind them, the Montana sky blazed with stars. Infinite. Eternal. Watching over a house where doors stayed open and strangers became family, and love always, always won. Because Thomas Chen had planted a garden, and Maggie Chen was teaching the world how to make it bloom. The door stayed open. The legacy lived on. And somewhere in heaven, Thomas smiled.